Welcome back to the Pre-Vetted podcast, where we spotlight extraordinary people and remarkable talent reshaping our world. Our guest today is Badri Varadarajan. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's the CEO of HitWit, whose mission is to bring a product expert to every customer interaction. He founded HitWit in 2023 to help revenue teams deliver the right product insights in the right format at the right moment, so deals move faster and expertise actually reaches customers. Hello, Badri. How are you doing today?
Federico, yeah, great to meet you. I look forward to this conversation. You almost got my name right. The J is pronounced, so it's not like Guadalajara. It's like Guadalajara. Varadarajan.
Varadarajan.
That's right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Hey, I made it.
you did.
Woo!
Well, is your last name? Do I pronounce the double L's or is it like Ramayo? Is it Federico Ramayo or Ramallo?
So, interesting question about that because in Mexico they pronounce it Ramayo,
Ramayo, yeah.
and then I'm from Argentina, and there they pronounce it Ramasho.
Oh, wow, really? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Ramasho.
Isn't
Okay.
that
It
isn't
is.
that interesting?
It totally is. Okay. I'm an honorary Brazilian because my lab mates were Brazilian and I supported the Brazil football team whenever they played. But I didn't know that many Argentines. I did not know this at all about Argentine culture. Okay, so that's Ramasho. Okay, all right.
Usually people in Mexico and all Latin America say that there's this concept that the Argentinians they have a high ego, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And there are some people like that, right? And the in Argentina, when I was there, we used to see all the other countries as we would look down at them, right? It was interesting, yeah. So we're Argentinian and they are Brazilian. They're lesser people than us, right? There was this attitude, right? And when you're living there, you don't realize that you have that, right? Um, there is some truth into that, right? But then I flew in '08. I flew to Sao Paulo, and the level of they have 10 times more industry or than Argentina, something like that, right?
Okay.
It's a big difference, right? So it was shocking to me just going from the airport to the hotel and seeing the level of industry, level of commerce, level of of how the economy was doing, right? And newer cars, more expensive cars, bigger industries, everything, right? Just in that little trip that I was blown away. So it took me like 15 minutes to kind of shake off that air of superiority.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
um,
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? You have to leave a country to truly understand it in some ways. I mean, I grew up in India. I left when I was 21. And yeah, I mean, you think about the country differently. I mean, obviously, countries change as well, just as much as you do. Like, I go back right now, there's like two things have changed, right? I have changed and the country has changed. And it's always like, in some sense, it's all the same. You're going back home. In some other sense, there is no home to go back to. It's a different country and you're a different person.
yes, it's a very sad thing to happen. Yes, where I grew up in Argentina, there was a big community of Italians, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And they moved out of Italy, during the First War, after the First War, between the Second World War, right? So, and they came with nothing, and they built up commerce, industries, everything, right? So for 30, 40 years, they stayed in Argentina until they have enough money to actually travel to Italy, right?
Mm.
And basically they had that same disappointment because so many things changed, and they would have this memory of their hometown, right?
Right.
That they will tell everybody about it, right?
Yeah.
And that beautiful town that they would describe where they grew up was no more,
That's
right?
right.
And it was when they would come back, they were so disappointed, and they share that story with us. Yeah.
I see. I'd say this. It's like it's not all bad. I mean, some change is good. I mean, there's a lot of the reduction in poverty worldwide is real. So I go back, I see that prosperity, that there is a lot of good to it. I think it's part of also being open to change yourself, not try to sort of bottle up your childhood as a point in time, but to say that okay, some change is good and some change isn't, and you just sort of take the rough with the smooth, right?
Yes, but change is life, right? It's part
Yeah,
of
right.
life.
Correct. Yeah, yeah, right.
So it's very interesting how how that happens. Yeah, but when you're living in the culture, you don't see those changes. But then when you
Right.
move out and come back, you see all the
Right.
changes and the issues that you couldn't see before. So yeah,
Yes. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
so it's important to travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope that the interconnectivity that we're having now with more internet, more everything, that's not going to make everybody the same, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I
Yeah.
I think that having that cultural diversity is a
Yes.
positive thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yes. I agree fully.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah. That the monoculture is something we need to sort of try to avoid. Yeah.
right. On the other hand, I do think that having a core shared values, it's important as humanity, so we can move forward in the same direction. But then, um, but that core
Yeah.
doesn't interfere with the cultural diversity that we have, right?
Right. Right. There is a vaguely remember this. I'm probably mangling the line, but there is a beautiful line, and I think it's either The Great Gatsby or I know it's Fitzgerald. He talks about how you should look out at life through one window. And basically what he's getting at is you need to have one viewpoint. So that is your culture, but you need to look out to the world. So you need to see that there are many other cultures out there. That's probably the best mix of it is you have a particular viewpoint. You're not like trying to be everything to everybody, but you also use that viewpoint to see the world so that you're engaging with the world as well. I think that's the sense in which he says it. I probably mangled the line a lot, but it has stayed with me at all times.
Beautiful.
It's a
Yes.
very good line. It sort of he works it into a story as well. It's not nonfiction. It's in fiction. It's like I think he says
Right.
something about the well-rounded man is the biggest myth of them all. You do need to look at life through one window or something like that. Anyway, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah. It stayed with me.
so coming back to topic.
Yeah,
uh, uh, can you tell us a little bit about HitWit and who is it for?
yeah. So the origin story I think also would be interesting. In 2023, I was CTO at a private equity company, and a couple of things. So I was involved in the alpha schools. They've been in the news a lot recently. There was a New York Times article last week, and it's in all kinds of local news stations at all times. That school had pioneered 2 hour learning. So the concept is that kids spend only 2 hours learning their common core curriculum, and they do it only through apps. No teachers are not teaching them common core. Instead, after those 2 hours, they're working with teachers to do projects and so on. And this was super effective. This sounds like some tech bro weird fantasy, but just in terms of learning common core, kids were doing great. They'd go from the 80th to 99th percentile in scores doing this. But that was one part of the portfolio of the private equity company. I was also responsible for recruiting people, onboarding them, processes for workflow for like there are 150 products in the portfolio, and we'd hire something like 500 new people globally every month. So it's somewhat insane in terms of the scale of it. And we were trying to apply similar techniques, sort of okay, how do you make this AI first? And for the longest time, we struggled a lot. And when 2023 was about the time that ChatGPT was hitting the mainstream, we'd been experimenting with that for a year and a half before that. It was a qualitative change. And the way I like to put it is effectively what these generative AI technologies do is the ability to take any information and first synthesize it and then express it in accordance to what the receiver needs to know, right? I mean, that could be a trainee, that could be a worker getting training, whatever. When I saw that, I was super motivated to, okay, so go make this technology available to the broader workforce. And that was the broader problem I set to solve. And startups are the best laid plans never go where you want them to go. When I first started, I thought I was going to go sell into the training departments, the learning and development departments of companies. In 6 months, I was like, no, this is not where I want to go, because training departments, the problem with that, and this is probably a controversial statement, is their metrics are awful, in the sense that all they care about is course completion. Whereas what you ideally want is to embed it into productivity, because that sort of goes to a broader point, right? You are not learning something in isolation. You are sort of, there is an iterative process, particularly once you've joined the workforce, where you learn something and then you do a little bit of it, and then you have the next question, and then you learn the next thing, and then you do a little bit of it. There is a complex process in most knowledge work. And that's why I think people should ban training departments, because they sort of try to keep this as a separate activity, which makes absolutely no sense. So we sort of morphed our product into something that not only does that training, but sort of intersects every part of the workflow. And that was one realization. The other realization was it makes no sense to do it for everybody. Instead, we should sort of pick a lane and go specialize in it. And so we picked the problem of sales and customer interaction. So we focus on, how does somebody understand a product and explain it to somebody else? When you get right down to it, that's the process of sales, right? A product team has gone and built something. Now, some other person, that could be a sales rep. In fact, most of our business today comes from selling to channel partners. They're selling somebody else's products. So how does this person understand somebody else's products without having access to the team that built it, explain it to a buyer in a sufficiently persuasive and clear way that they will actually understand what the product does and buy it? So that's a long-winded way of saying that was our journey. The motivation was that we are entering a new knowledge era, and the actual practice of it has been focused on sales teams and channel partner teams, which have to explain a product to a customer. And that's what we do. Did that answer your question?
Yes, yes, of course. I was letting you finish. I think that there is some value on the building courses and teaching people, but I agree with you that they have that tool and they say, "Oh, I have this tool and I can apply it to everything and everywhere," right?
Right.
And that sounds great, but it doesn't work. It doesn't necessarily translate into productivity or business impact, right? And I
Right.
think that's where the miss of the training departments are, right?
Right. And if I take the workflow, right? So let's say some of our customers today are channel partners. Okay. So that company, they have to sell one of 2,500 products. Now, admittedly, not every rep is not going to sell all 2,500. Let's say they pick a lane and they have to sell 200 products. Fine. But it's still 200 products. And even if they take training this moment, the time for them to have a conversation about the product is 3 months later. And it's not going to be set up as a conversation about the product. You've just set up a customer meeting and you're talking to the customer, and the customer is telling you something. It's impossible for them to remember something that they got trained on 3 months back. That's why that whole method doesn't work. What you instead want is for them to get the high level detail, basically form their own mental map. And we are sort of severely, I mean, like deeply into this mental map concept. Like every part of our interaction will sort of surface your mental map, because there's also a metacognitive element to it. You not only have to see it, but you have to look into your own understanding to understand anything, right? Like this is how you think about the world. That this is this category of products, that's this category of products. When somebody talks to me about one thing, I will correlate it with that. It's important for you to see that, to process it. And that's all you need to know. At a high level, you don't need to know every single detail. You need to make that association. And then when you have that conversation, that's where the product training can sort of kick in and give you live help to say, hey, remember you talked about this. So this person will bring it up But then there is going to be the next level of detail as to exactly how it works in this scenario. And that's where an AI assistant can help you with this. So you are still doing the work, you are still talking to the customer, but there's something that's sort of sitting out of the corner of your eye, helping you with providing you the details that you need, right? Um, yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, and the learning, the other part of the learning is by doing.
Yeah.
So if you get out of the doing and sit down in a classroom and learn, and they dump information to you, you might be able to pass the test, the evaluation that they do, but that doesn't mean that you actually know how to do the things, right? You were able
Right.
to regurgitate the content or
Right.
whatever they
Right.
dump to you, right? So that model is flawed by.
Well, see, you're wiser than I am. I'll give you a story here. This might be interesting. A year and a half back, it was like early 2024. Somebody who was like my prospect who said, "Hey, this is all fine, but you really need to add a sales simulation where somebody can simulate a sales conversation." And I'm like, nah, that's stupid. Why do I need a sales simulation? Anyway, you're going to talk to customers. Which rep wants to talk to a simulated customer? They'll just go talk to real customers. That's what they want. And this is where, as product people, which is as an entrepreneur, that's effectively what you are. You're a product person trying to define a product, right? We sometimes get pig-headed in our own prejudices, right? This was my prejudice that, okay, nobody's going to want to talk to a simulated customer. And 3 months back, after 20 different people had told me that you really need a sales simulator, we finally went and built out one. Obviously, we sort of did it in a thoughtful way, but this was something where this whole point you're saying, right? Learning by doing. There is one part of learning by doing it in real time with on a sales call, but people do want that thing where they want to try out that sales call. I mean, admittedly, there were also part of my prejudice was a lot of these sales simulators, in my opinion, solve the wrong problem. They are sort of trying to tell you how to talk, meaning use that phrase, don't say that sort of thing. But that's the wrong problem. The problem is not how to talk. Most people kind of figure out how to talk, and if they don't know how to talk, they won't be in sales long term anyway. Their problem is they don't know what to talk, right? I mean, there is a product you brought up. You and I are having the conversation. Like, I'm sure I could say whatever I'm saying a little bit better, but I first need to have good content to talk about too. So there is that. And so that's one thing that we've been sort of keen on is even the sales simulator brings that product knowledge element to it. It is trained on an actual product knowledge base, not just you know how to have small talk and you can talk about the weather in 5 different ways. Not that way, but sort of put substance also in addition to style, so to speak.
Right, right. Yeah, and the only way you can do that is by practicing and then
Yeah,
realizing, well, you did it wrong, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The closest you can get to the real thing and a simulator customer is that, right? It's how you can actually learn, right? Circling back to what you said that, rejected reality, you were
Yeah,
stubborn enough to,
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
until you came to the realization that, yeah, this is something that we need to do, right? I think that's I have that struggle as well, like with many things. And one way that I can understand this is like this: as an entrepreneur, we have to be resilient. I would say stubborn. That's why I use the word stubborn, right? Stubborn enough to ignore reality, right?
Right, right.
Because everybody is going to say, "Oh, don't do this.
Yeah,
Don't start a company. This is
yeah,
not going to work." Most of people are going to say no, right? Don't change the status quo, right?
right, right,
Everything is fine.
right.
Why are you making, waves?
Yes, yes,
Do not do that, right?
yeah,
But also sensitivity
right.
to find these signals, right?
Yes.
And then the wisdom to tell them apart, right?
Yeah,
Between
correct.
noise and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
signal, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. Correct. Yeah, that's right. There's a prayer. It's like, oh Lord, give me the wisdom to know what I should dream about, what I should accept, and to always know the difference, or something like that. I forget the exact quote, but yeah,
Yes.
there are some places where you want to refuse to accept reality. There are some places where you want to be pragmatic and accept reality, and it's hardest to know which, right? I mean, it's like you can't be crazy about everything, you can't be pragmatic about everything, right? So it's
Yes. And Another important thing that I can highlight is having the humility or the self-awareness to be able to say, I made this mistake
Yeah,
before, then I realized it, and now I changed.
right. Correct. Yeah, that's right. And that's always hardest. I mean, as you say, in any given day, that's the challenge, right? So, there are a few things ahead of you. There are a few choices you need to make. And I think the question becomes, should you persist, or should you just wave the white flag on some particular decisions? And it's always hard to tell the difference. I mean, there are no clear metrics. It's not like something will clearly tell you it's one way or the other is true, right? So yeah, it's hard.
Yes, it's hard, and knowing the difference is not, it's a judgment call, right? It's not
Yeah,
an
yeah,
easy.
right, correct. Yeah. So as particularly sort of just getting into in say software, which is the field that I'm in right now, we deliver software. The good news is that the latency between making a bet and getting the answer for, okay, did this work or did this not? Like basically getting that data point is small. So you get to make lots of experiments, which is a good thing. I used to work in hardware. So I started my career in Texas Instruments. And there, from the moment that you decide to build a chip to the moment that that chip comes back and does what it does, you have to invest a ton of money. And also there is a lot of latency there as well. So it's just you need to be sure about your bets. The advantage of being in software is you get to make lots of bets. It doesn't take you that much time or money to get the answer to, hey, did this work or not? But the problem for the corresponding problem as an entrepreneur is you have so many choices to make every single day. It's like, you can do this. It's like there are like 5 different things you can do in the next 3 weeks. Which one should you do? It just sort of increases the uncertainty that way, right? So,
Interesting. Yes, I agree. I was talking in another episode about how the life cycle of building software, right? That used to be that when my mom was, she's a software engineer as well, she had to book time, computing time of the mainframe, right? And
yeah,
and she would write the program on a, I say piece of paper, but it's actually a roll of, it's a big
yeah,
big pile of paper, right?
yeah, yeah.
And she had mechanical machines to do that, right? And
Wow.
then you would input that into the mainframe, and then you will get the output, which was another, large, stack of papers
Yeah,
that you have to debug offline. You will take those
right,
papers, and then you will debug your program and see what was
right.
the issue, right?
Yes,
So every debugging cycle will take weeks, right?
yes.
Between you book the time, between you get the results, all that, right? So it was a process, and now we can do that very quickly. And we were talking about this in the context of AI, that now AI allows you to vibe code or build code faster, and or do these prototypes faster, even if you don't
Yeah,
know what you're doing, right?
right.
So now it is not only faster, but it's available to a broader audience, right? That was not available before.
That's an interesting. Let me take the other side of the argument with you on this. This is
Yes.
interesting, right? I'll give you sort of 2 data points. I was in the early or late 2000s. I had to fight for computing time because we were trying to run a simulator of an entire cellular network for some standards that we were developing and whatnot, right? Obviously, the computing is the sort of thing that your mom couldn't even have imagined when she was doing her thing, right? I mean, it's like in terms of the clock speeds, in terms of memory, it's just faster. But I still felt like there was not enough compute to do what I want to do. Similarly, I'm right now building a startup, which is an AI startup. Yes, it's become easier for me to code, but actually, the interesting thing that's happened is it's also made it easy for all my competitors to code. So now I need to go stand out in the marketplace and get customer attention. And we have to do that much more to get that customer attention. What I'm getting at, in other words, is in some sense, yes, we are in a world of plenty. In some other sense, since it increases both supply and demand at the same time, it never feels like, oh, we are living in a world of plenty. As a supplier right now, I feel like we are throttled. Like there are constraints I'm facing. I wish I could do this faster and that faster and this faster and that faster. Mainly because the other part also is what became easy for me became easy for tens of other people. And so the expectation of the customer or the buyer has also changed. I can't go to them with just an AI generated lesson and say, oh, buy this, it's awesome. They're like, oh, yeah, everybody talks about AI generated lesson. What are you doing unique, right? So there is all that happens. It's an interesting dynamic. I mean, yes, supply has become easier, but success is just as hard as it used to be.
Yeah, or even harder, right?
Or even harder, correct, yes.
For what you're describing, it's an interesting take. I haven't thought it that way. And at one point, this reminds me to a story which is kind of uh, lateral to what you were talking about. But I used to build computers, right? Like putting them together and selling them to homes, right?
Wow.
That was my
Okay.
first gig, right? And quickly I realized that every new teenager could do this, right? At that time, you had to like figure out, the network computer, the network card, the graphic accelerator card, the RAM, the speed of the RAM and the CPU. You have so many things to check, right?
Yeah.
And put all that together and bolt it together, right? It was fun, but it was easy for any kid to do that. So it was easy for any kid to compete with me on pricing because they could do it for lower and lower cost, right?
Yeah.
So I did it for a while, then eventually I stopped doing it because of that, right? But that reminds what you're describing reminds me to this story, because what happens now is that more people can have access to with an AI agent can build a working prototype for a tool that they need, right?
Yeah.
So the simpler cases um, for AI agents can be solved with those type of things. And if you compete with those type of products, you're going to be more expensive always, right?
That's good.
So
Yeah.
your product has to aim higher to
Right.
bring customers where that level of complexity is where that solution is not good enough for the level of complexity that they have, right?
Right, right. I'm also I'm thinking about this live, so this probably is not well formulated, but my thesis here is every company has a bottleneck at any given point of time. The thing that causes them to fail, for want of a better word. And for software companies, particularly in the AI space, I think that bottleneck is attention. How do you get the attention of your intended buyer? Because there's a lot of noise around AI. I mean, obviously, I think HitWit is a great product, but then so does my competitors. How do I convince my customer that they should pay attention to HitWit and not to the competitor? Now, in some other cases, the bottleneck could be technology, right? Like, for example, my wife works in biotech, and to them, the problem is not attention. It's actually like getting stuff to work, like getting a drug to actually cure cancer. I mean,
Right.
that's the bottleneck. It's not whether get somebody to pay attention to you or not. And I suppose every now and then people figure out a hack around the bottleneck, some form of reality distortion. But hey, that's what it is. It's like there is a bottleneck to every given problem, right? And sometimes the bottleneck is hidden. It's not what it seems like. It is something else.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that attention is becoming an issue. People are having shorter and shorter attention span for everything.
Yeah.
And we are all overloaded with more and more information. So, while I'm talking, I'm just forgot to mute my phone. So it's flashing notifications, right? Let me put it on focus. There you go. So, we have so many of those, right? All the time, right? So why should we pay attention to your product when we're overloaded with
That's
your
right.
and my product,
Right. Yeah.
when we're overloaded
Yeah.
with those, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
yeah, even if we need it, right? It's
Yes.
it's it's hard to get that attention. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, it's like we have customers today who are like, "Hey, this is a very important problem to me, but there is something that we need to do this quarter, so I'm going to do that first." There is that happens as well, right? So there is always that, and particularly with AI, I'm seeing that significantly is as product builders, just to sort of take it to the next part of the thought process is the easier you can make it to adopt it in the current workflow, the faster the product sells. We've had this epiphany like multiple times, even in our short life as a company, right? There are two things that are simultaneously true, which is the promise of AI is that it will fundamentally change the workforce, that it fundamentally changes how organizations are structured. And that is true. Like when you get right down to it, vibe coding is that, right? It basically says you don't need a large software team to do something. A couple of senior engineers with experience will just be able to whip up products like clockwork. But that's not the organization today. Today's organization is a pyramid. There is, for every L5 engineer, there are two L4 engineers and there are four L3 engineers, and that's how it's built. It's possible this organization structure is wrong in the age of AI. It's possible that the right organization structure is not a pyramid but a tower, but a brick building where there is
Right.
equal numbers on all levels. But that's not the organization you live in right now. So as a builder, you need to sort of intersect reality where it is, not where you think it ought to be. So that's one of the things that we've had to change always is we are promising a better, fundamentally more productive organization in the future, but we're selling into the organization that's there right now. So fit into this workflow for now, but don't lose sight of the fact that you are shooting for a fundamentally different capability. That's pretty challenging as an AI builder. And that's in fact the challenge that I run into all the time is where do I want to compromise? Where do I want to say, this is not the right thing to do, but fine, this is what our customer needs can use today, so let's do it right now. So there is that.
Right. Right. I understand what you're talking about. You can have your vision, but the vision, if it's too far in the future and people don't understand, don't connect it to the real needs now,
Right.
then they're not going to connect with your product, right?
Basically,
So,
we won't stay alive long enough to have the vision come true, right? There is that.
right,
And I think there's also the point you mentioned earlier, which is to have the humility to understand that at some level you are just a provider of a tool and you don't understand the complexity of an organization and exactly what they're doing. So it's sort of also good to have the humility to know that if people want to use it in a particular way, it's not because they are silly or backwards, but it's because your tool does not really solve the fundamental problem that they have. So you sort of try to fit into where they live. So there is also that, right?
right, right. Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. There are no right answers here. You just have to discover, as you said, as you go along.
Yes, yes, and having the humility to realize
Yeah,
that that
yeah.
and on a startup you're pretty much on survival mode, right? Until you
That's right.
can,
Correct.
yeah,
Yes.
until you
Yeah.
can like have a little bit of footing and then move forward, right?
That's right. Correct.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
I I'm running an experiment as well on our platform called Prevented.ai,
Yeah.
and I'm working on that balance. How many features should I build? How many should I
Yeah.
validate before building them, right? And I have advisors that give me advice that I disagree on some level, I agree on some, and we go back and forth on this discussion, how much or how little,
Right.
right, should we
Right.
build, right?
Yes. Right. Correct. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, for what it's worth, my philosophy has always been if I can't run an experiment in the next month, the idea is practically useless as of now. I'll just sort of put it in a document with things that I should think about sometime in the future. But that, at least that's how I sort of view this, is the only ideas that should be in our attention window are things for which we can run an experiment in the next month. And the downside of that is that there are certain ambitious ideas that you're not thinking about, but that's sort of the nature of the beast. I think that's where the successful organizations, as they mature, are able to develop that for want of a better word, a system one and a system two, which is one part of your engine which is just humming along, doing what needs to be done for the next month, and another part of your engine which is thinking slightly longer term. And you sort of keep the balance between the two as well. Speaking of, like Elon Musk says lots of crazy things, but there is something that he said yesterday which I thought really resonated. I don't know if you saw that. There is something where apparently they made a change where they don't any longer have a title called researcher and a title called engineer. Now it's just everybody's an engineer. I thought that was spot on. That was great. I've been in R&D organizations a lot in my career. That whole thing of researcher only breeds resentment and confusion. Basically, if you call something a research department, A, they somehow think that it's a sin for them to produce monetary value. And B, everybody else resents them because they feel like these people are being put on a pedestal. I think it's a lot simpler to say everybody's an engineer. You might be engineering something for the next month or for the next year, but you're engineering anyway. What they've done apparently is in XAI and maybe in his other companies as well, they've removed the separate designation called researcher. Now everybody is an engineer. And I've been in R&D organizations, and I think this is a really good move, because when you create this R&D department, it does two things. The people in the R&D department think it's almost a crime for them to do anything productive, like actually useful. And the people outside the R&D department think that they are second class citizens, that these people are like somehow they have some secret smarts that other people don't have. And so I think this is a better way to do this. It's like you're an engineer, you might be engineering something that's 3 months out or it's 3 years out, but your job is to build something and make it testable, and it either passes the test or it does not. And then you take that data and you refine it. And yeah, that I think is a positive move.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I understand that there are places where research is required. Like a research role could be required, but builds this idea of I am smarter and better
Yeah,
than
right,
everybody else.
right.
This level, sense of entitlement, and the that I am beneath of just doing some menial productive work, right? uh,
That's right. Correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're totally above. Obviously, if all they did is change the titles, that is terrible. That doesn't do anything. That might be like Doge. It's the right problem, wrong solution. But I'm probably being politically somewhat controversial. But if they actually went and solved the problem, which is, hey, there are not two. I mean, there might be two tiers of work you do. There are not two tiers of people. Everybody has to be accountable. Everybody has to be thoughtful. Everybody has to have a clear executable plan. I think that'd be good.
right, right, and we're painting with a white brush. All the researchers, there are good people there. But there's also this, negative
Yeah,
behavior that we're
correct.
talking about,
Right.
right? Yeah, but now if you have one role engineering, then you have to build stuff, you have to be productive, you have to do research, yes, but you also have to be accountable of business outcomes.
That's right. Correct. Yes. Yes. I mean, totally understanding that there are some things that will not work for 3 years. That's totally fine. It is just you correspondingly design your experiments, you correspondingly design your ideas. But it doesn't sort of make you, by definition, smarter than somebody else, just because you're doing something that's not immediate.
Right. So what are what is the roadmap for HitWig? What are you planning to
Yeah, so it's a great question. So I mean, just to continue on the thought that we just said, we obviously are releasing new things every week, right? I used to write a product blog. I stopped it. I need to revive that, talking about what we built in the last week and why. And we'll revive that soon. But just sort of thinking in terms of timelines, our immediate goal in the next 6 months is to be a comprehensive solution for what's traditionally known as partner enablement. Meaning, if you have sell through indirect channel partners, we will be able to enable them to understand your product, to sell it, and to give you consistent feedback on who is doing what and how they can do it better. So we already have a bunch of things that do that. Now we're sort of integrating into workflows. We have partnerships announced with CRMs and PRMs and so on and so forth. So that's the immediate future, but leveling up a little bit, the next year and a half, where we want to be is a place that not only deals with the idea of explaining products, but also strategizing your search. What that means is, if you think of what we do right now, imagine that somebody got you a lead from somewhere. Somebody knows that this partner can sell your product, then we enable that. The place where we want to go is, given your product, we actually tell you what is the best way for you to sell it through partnerships. Talk to these 10 partners and tell them this particular thing and structure the deal this particular way. And that's how your channel program will go better. Essentially, doing more and more of this. Basically, do one thing well and then do the adjacent thing well and sort of slowly expand that way till you can almost get a partner program in a box. That's our ultimate vision for this. But yeah, I mean, as you said, do one thing well. I mean, you don't try to do 15 different things and do them badly. Do one thing extremely well. I say this, but in fact, the value prop, the reasons customers buy us today is that we do more than one thing. Because that's one of the things I like to talk about is, right now there are, any given sales team uses 10 different tools. And part of the problem is, forget about the cost of the tools. It is that no organization can actually use 10 different tools, because you need to keep the data updated. You need to figure out the right metrics. You need to have a dashboard and you need to have management to look at those dashboards, none of which they're going to do, right? So part of what we do is to say, don't use 10 different tools badly. Use our product, and with one knowledge base, carry we take care of training, we take care of answering questions, we take care of your in-call coaching, all three of them at the same time. And the big advantage is not so much cost, but it is the data accuracy and data maintenance, because you only maintain your knowledge base in one time, and then that thing goes to work for you in three different ways, right? So that we already do, but what I'm getting at is, once we do this execution part of it, the next layer up is, how do I even find out who to talk to? Like, how do I find out the right partner for my organization? And we conquer those, I think, once we deliver this fully.
Interesting, very interesting. Yes, looking forward to see where you're taking HeatWig in the future.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. This is an exciting time. I've really enjoyed building this one. This is my second startup. This one has been a lot of fun.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So we're running out of time. I appreciate you joining us today, and happy to continue the conversation.
Likewise, yeah. And when you do come to the Bay Area, hit me up. Let's grab coffee.
Absolutely, we'll do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. All right.